At this time on ESPN Radio 94.1, joined by a special guest, the South Boston native, started his engine in 695 races over a 22-year career in NASCAR's top division. 1994 Winston Cup Rookie of the Year, compiled 254 top 10 finishes, and now you see him all the time on television on NBC Sports as an analyst for NASCAR. He's going into the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame this weekend. Jeff Burton here with us. Jeff, first off, congratulations. How you been?
I've been really good, thank you. Yeah, it's an honor to be part of this class. You think of the people that have been in this Hall of Fame. It's quite a list of people, and it's a real honor to be here.
A lot of great accomplishments, achievements throughout your racing career and then now post-racing career. Where does this rank up there with some of those?
So I'm not good at that. My brain works like I'm always thinking about what the next challenge is. I don't put things in perspective very well, but I will say this: the respect from the people that put this all together means a great deal to me. This class is a really cool class, very diverse class from different backgrounds. That's really cool. It's hard for me to rank things because everything is special in its own way. But I do know that I wouldn't trade any of my achievements for another one because they all are special in their own way.
And representing the state of Virginia, I'm sure a lot of pride that comes with that too.
It really is. Especially being from the motorsports industry, Virginia is really, really strong when it comes to racing. If you think about, we have two of the best racetracks, the most competitive racetracks on the NASCAR circuit with Richmond and Martinsville. Those two racetracks have had a huge role in the history of NASCAR, continue to have a role in it. And then all the little short tracks around Virginia are very well respected in the racing community as well. So from being a guy that was in this hall because of racing from this state means a great deal.
Tell us about some of the early influences on your life as you were beginning your career. Who really made an impact on you, be it on the track or off it?
Yeah, so obviously my family. You spend so much time with your family. I took so much from each one of my family members. Both my brothers, were older than me. I looked up to them. My parents, my father was a huge influence. His competitiveness, his spirit, his work ethic. My mom was amazing and still is. Compassion, has so much compassion for people, and that was a good balance for me. And professionally, I had a remarkable opportunity to work with incredible people. I drove for Jack Roush, I drove for Richard Childress, two of the biggest names in the sport. They had a huge influence on me. Billy and Mickey Stavola gave me my first ride. Those guys were just incredible to work with. And then to work with people like Buddy Parrott, a guy that I worked with. He was a crew chief and just a huge figure in the sport. Then, teammates with Matt Kenseth, teammates with Mark Martin, teammates with Clint Boyer, Kevin Harvick, just incredible people to work with. And really fortunate to have been around people like that and still spend time with them today. And those are, you talk about trophies, the races you lost, the races you won, but really it's about people. It's the journey that you take and who you do it with that makes it special.
We're chatting with Jeff Burton, one of the newest members of the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame class of 2019. Our guest here on ESPN Radio 94.1, part of this Hall class. You see him all the time on NBC Sports and one of the best to ever get behind the wheel in the state of Virginia. And you just spoke on it, Jeff. I think in all walks of sports, whether it's racing or football, basketball, baseball, you name it, that sibling competitive edge, and you had siblings, but people talk about you and your brother Wade and what that did, that competitive to push each other. How much did that really help you on your journey to not only reach the level of excellence but sustain it?
Yeah, I don't know. To be honest with you, I didn't like competing against my brother. Because that's what you're doing. It's not like your teammates and you win the game together and he was on offense and you were on defense, or you were both on the offensive line. It's not like that. You are literally against each other. And unlike almost every other sport, you compete against each other every single week, every single practice, every single qualifying session, every single race. You're head to head against everybody. And when one of those guys is your brother, it's hard. And sometimes we didn't handle it as well as we could have. As we matured, we handled it really well, actually, and became, I think, the competition. We were pretty far apart in years. I think the competition and both understanding how difficult it is what we were trying to do actually made us gain a lot of respect for each other. And that has a lot to do with our relationship today and that how much respect we do have for each other. So I don't I don't like competing against family members. It's because it's a cutthroat business. I mean, it just is. When you put that helmet on, you have to have a killer mentality. You have to have a warrior attitude, and there's just no other way to be successful.
Was there a turning point or spot in your career you look back on and are most proud of, and that's where I felt like I arrived, or I really accomplished something that was going to be hard to do, and it took? Where do you look back? Was there a turning point for you?
So when I went to work for Jack Roush, that's when it all came together. Because Jack was a huge influence on my life, not just professionally. He gave me the reins and said, go do it. And so we started with a race team that wasn't in existence, and we built a race team from nothing. And he let me be part of that process more than just drive the race car. And the truth of the matter is, I was an average race car driver, but I was really, really good at working on race cars and understanding what needed to make them go faster. That's what my strength was. And Jack put me in a position to excel because he trusted me to do it. Didn't even know me and trusted me to do it. So that taught me, I learned so much working for him. By doing things wrong, he let me fail, he let me make mistakes as long as I was learning from it. And those years were the years that really made me, in my opinion, I mean, a lot of things made me who I am, but those years were huge in that, and me becoming who I am today.
So fair to say that combination of your work ethic and his trust in you meant a whole lot.
Yeah, and you couldn't outwork Jack. So no matter how much you were working, he was going to be working more. And, my dad was like that as well. So I've been around those kind of people my whole life, and I wasn't always like that. As a guy in high school, I think a lot of my family members would have called me lazy and unmotivated, because I didn't care about school. But the only thing I cared about was racing. And when I got in a position where I could devote myself and commit myself to racing, no one called me lazy anymore. They called me crazy, because that's all I was doing, is working all the time. So, being around people that have that work ethic, that drive, and then as an adult, with all those responsibilities that came with driving and being the face of a company, being the driver for a company, for an industry, with sponsors and everybody, there's a lot of pressure that people don't realize. And on top of that, helping build the team and helping design the cars and do all that was just an incredible time in my life. And he let me do that. And that was, I still today, I can't believe how much he let me do. And that's why I ended up going to Richard Childress Racing. I went to Richard Childress Racing because the company had not been running very well, and I left Roush because we weren't doing well either. They needed a change, I needed a change, and I went to Richards because Richard recognized the strengths I had, and he thought that could help his company. And we ultimately had a role in, not by myself, but I had a role in turning that thing around and getting it where it was ultra competitive. So those are things that Jack put me in position to do, and then other people wanted me to do it for them as well.
I'll get you on this one. Thank you so much for your time. We're chatting with Jeff Burton, one of the newest members of the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame, here on ESPN Radio 94.1, one of the great NASCAR drivers from the state of Virginia, now on TV with NBC Sports, giving you coverage on NASCAR. Let's talk about NASCAR as it is today, the sport currently, and what do you see out there here in 2019? So,
the sports, this year has kind of been weird, to be honest with you. It hadn't really had a rhythm to it yet. I mean, the dominance from Gibbs and Penske, those two things, they've been the best two teams for sure. Yeah, but behind that, it's hard to understand where everybody is. There's a lot of mile-and-a-half tracks. There was a major effort to create better racing on mile-and-a-halves by changing the cars' aerodynamic features and the horsepower they make, because short track racing and NASCAR racing is awesome, and the mile-and-a-halves are kind of average racing. So there was a huge effort put into it to make that racing better. A lot of things changed, and I think the teams are still figuring it out. I think the teams quite don't understand what they have their hands on, and I think you'll see a huge evolution in regard to who can run well later in the year. I think teams are learning a great deal, learning quickly. Like I said, Penske and Gibbs, their teams came out hot, but some people are going to catch them. It's going to be interesting to see who are the ones that catch them.
Pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much for the time, and congrats once again on going to the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Jeff Burton, our guest here on ESPN Radio 94.1, part of NBC Sports' coverage of NASCAR, and also a member of the 2019 Virginia Sports Hall of Fame.